custom wood signs made easy. Made easy with a CNC. Yes, this is a CNC video. My first project's with a CNC, and so it's sign making. Just a great place to start for those with a CNC. For those of you who don't have one yet, stick around, check it out. I learned a lot through this process, and here I am just trying to share what I learned as far as different material types, different finishing options, what works, different accessories to use to make your project really, come to life, what bits to use. So it's a really basic introductory video to sign making with a CNC. Great place to start. For those of you who maybe are a little bit more seasoned, feel free to jump around. So check out those timestamps down below to jump to the section you want. If it's a little too slow or you already know it, just skip around. But lots of possibilities, as you can see here, and really, truly, possibilities are endless. Whether you're a hobbyist like me or you want to have an Etsy shop and do some customization, just so many options here. So check it out, making some signs with my I2R CNC.
This video is brought to you by Imagination to Reality, I2R. Stay tuned to the end to see what makes their CNCs stand out.
So first up, wood selection. So I love hardwoods. Most of my channel, I feature beautiful hardwoods with all their natural colors. So that's where I love to go to. However, as you're learning a new tool, you don't want to use these really expensive, really nice woods to begin with. And so I do recommend starting with inexpensive woods like plywood, right? This is plywood, melamine, MDF, or just some construction grade pine, just something you can get at the box store just to kind of learn. Or maybe reclaim wood would be a great place to start as well. If you do want to get into the hardwoods and all these beautiful colors, the natural colors, no stains, I have a whole video, Wood 101, kind of talks about where to buy these, where can you find them, as well as the different colors and species. But one wood that I do love and that I'll definitely use a lot more in the future is just vertical grain fir, some VG fir. It really produces great results. It's a soft wood, but really you get some really nice effect. This is just a simple V-carve, and these pieces, sometimes they're pre-finished. It could make really quick work for batching. Obviously this Jatoba, this Brazilian cherry, the hardwoods, they look amazing. But as you're getting started, there's nothing wrong with plywood. So this was just plywood. I mean, you can see this was just some scrap plywood I had. And, this was my first cut, and it turned out really well. This V-carve turned out really nicely. And so the one consideration with plywood is there are multiple layers. There's the plies. And so you just have to think about how deep you're going to go, as you set your depth. The other thing, if you're doing more intricate carves like so, you might lose some pieces, right? You might lose some of the detail here. And so like this pelican here, I lost a little bit because it was right in between those layers. And so most people couldn't tell, but again, that's something to consider. This is melamine. It was just some melamine, right? And it cut really clean. So that's certainly an option as well. MDF is what most people go to, especially for this style of signs. Those are all plywood back there. But MDF is really inexpensive. Takes a little bit more to paint. And so there's some extra considerations there. But let's take a look at my first project with MDF and give you some tips. Seeing the machine in action, cutting some MDF.
So the biggest factor with MDF is priming and really painting, right? It absorbs so much paint so quickly. Just gonna have to keep sanding, repaint, reprime it. That'll take you some time, and it's also weather dependent. Then at this point, I'm adding some masking. So I'll talk more about this Oramask material later in the video and some considerations, but it really does a great job to help get a really crisp line. And then here I am loading up the machine, loading the file, and then carving away. The other thing about MDF is it is the biggest offender when it comes to sawdust. I didn't have the dust shoe or the boot hooked up here, and it was just fine. You're just gonna have to keep an eye on it, but just be aware of that, right? But it cuts super clean. MDF cuts really well. There's not too much sanding that's gonna be required afterwards. It is a very inexpensive material to use, and so it is preferred by a lot of folks, but some extra work with painting. And so here I'm just doing a quick clear coat, then adding some more of that filler primer, and then adding my color, some black. Make sure it dries, let this all dry before you peel it off. But here I am peeling it off. This is super satisfying. You're gonna see how crisp those letters are, and it just really, it cuts so well. Downside is when you rush a job and you don't wait for the paint to cure and then add the plastic and the masking on, you ruin the paint job like you see here. And so at this point I'm like, awesome, super. But just forged ahead and just pulled off all of the things, all of the masking with the little tool here, made a quick work of it. And to see what I got, and I decided to pivot, and I just went rustic. That's what woodworkers do, and so I distressed it a little bit more, did some more sanding, and I went ahead and called it rustic. This was a practice project after all, and you know what? It turned out okay. It wasn't what I was going for, but it was a decent look. So if you're going for that rustic, weathered look, you know, rock it this way, and so that's an option for you. But it did turn out rather nicely. I'm a fan of how it looked with a nice frame. But another material is melamine. So melamine, it's already painted white, and it works really well. It also cuts really clean. And so here I have an image, and then I have text that I'm cutting out. And I will give a full tutorial later in the video on how to use the software and some more considerations as far as bits and toolpaths and all that kind of stuff. But here you can see how the melamine works as far as a material choice, and it cuts really clean. It is a decent selection. It's just a little bit more brittle. So again, that's something to consider. But then you want to prime it, paint it, peel it, and there you go. There's some alliteration for you. Sorry, can't help myself. But it turned out nicely. So melamine is an option, especially for testing out your cuts and whatnot.
All right, here's another quick tip for you. Having extra stock on hand. Now, not just like your materials, but finished materials. So for instance, I was prepping some panels, I was priming it, as you can see here, and I thought, hey, might as well grab some other pieces. So chopped up some extra pieces. Now here I have a bunch of extra panels. Came in really handy to have pre-primed pieces. Here, it's just some construction grade, you know, Doug fir, and went ahead, made some extra panels, stained it, you know, thought, oh, I have a little bit more stain. Here's just a scrap piece of plywood to test out. Again, this is pretty common sense, but it's still a great tip. Paint, right? I had some extra paint left over. Yeah, you know what? I might use that color again. So just having some extra pieces on hand. Now I've got all of these pieces ready if I have a custom order, a custom piece come up, or an occasion, a special occasion, a gift for someone. I can whip up a project a lot quicker and not have to wait for paint to dry or to fully cure. So another quick tip.
So here I am just prepping some material, just using some plywood, some pine, some of the less expensive stuff. I mean, everything's more expensive nowadays, but some more affordable options that you can find at the box store. And like you saw earlier, I'm just painting away. So I'm doing some primer, right? It's about 2 coats of primer. That way, when I'm ready for adding paint, it's going to be quicker. I'm not going to spend forever with the spray paint for whatever color. It just seems to be an efficient method for me. So again, plenty of other options you can do, but we got a primer down, and then it's time for spray paint. So lots of colors. It's just a quick solution. There's some other reasons I'll get to shortly why I like spray paint. Other options as well, of course, but it's pretty satisfying. Quick adding some color here rather quickly, get the color down, and you're good to go. I just went with about 2 coats, and then I did a clear coat afterwards. And the clear coat before carving, I think, is really important, and here's why.
All right, so some of the accessories, fair amount of other tools and whatnot you see in the shop. Links down below if you're interested. But the one thing is the Oramask. So this masking material, which works incredibly to get the really, really nice effect, especially for painting. However, something I learned through the process, I don't know, let me know in the comments, you know, why this is. But when I just used, this was just a latex-based paint, a latex paint with the Oramask, especially on really fine engraving, V-carving, it didn't hold up and it didn't adhere as well, and I had some issues with it. I also, obviously, if you don't wait for the paint to cure and you put it down with a spray paint, you really do want to, if you're spray painting, wait overnight for it to fully cure and dry at least. You know, read the directions on the back of your rattle can to do. But for whatever reason, I've had 0 issues when I went with just spray paint and if I had a top coat. Also, if I had spray paint without a top coat. But the spray paint, I had no issues. It stuck really well, especially for that really nice fine detail. So I highly recommend, if you're gonna use the Oramask, go with a spray paint. Or if you're gonna do paint, just do a top coat. So that way it's gonna adhere a little bit better. It's just a lot stickier. I don't know what it is. Anyway, Oramask, great stuff, works really well. Other ways to do it, but if you're gonna use the Oramask, save yourself the headache and all that. And then of course, you know, your handy little tool, so much fun. But this works really well, a lot better than your fingernail. Anyway, little tips, Oramask, check it out, good stuff.
So once you have your painted piece, go ahead and add the Oramask. Go ahead and add it down. Just pressure. Some people use a credit card or a spreader. Then here I am just finding the center point to line it up on my machine. And once the painted piece with the Oramask is on, load your program in. So here I'm doing VCarve again. Once again, I'll talk more about this later in the video. Use those timestamps if so desired. But you can just kind of see how these spray painted pieces with the Oramask work. Again, these are plywood. This is just plywood to test out. You can kind of see these sports logos, how it turned out. But this really, this material works really well.
Let's talk bits. So obviously CNC machine, it's essentially a router. Router bits. Actually, quite a few of your woodworking router bits would still work on the CNC. You just would have to check the collet size. So I just want to jump in real quick on a couple of the key bits. For those of you woodworkers, you probably see the advertisements for Tools Today a lot, or Bits and Bits. They're two great companies. They do an extra coating, Astra coating, or the Spectra coating for Amana bits. That works great too. So I kind of went overboard. I bought a bunch of new bits. You don't really need to. Take it easy. My I2R came with a starter set from Whiteside, some great bits. Really, most of what I did, all of these projects you see, I just used a V-bit. I just did a VCarve. Really simple to learn this software. You know, over time I'll learn some more. So I'm not going to do a deep dive into all the different bits. I just want to talk about a couple ones that I used here. So let's take a closer look. So like I said, most of my cuts, I just used a V-bit, right? So this is a 90 degree. I used the 60 degree, the one that's in the collet right now. But really, you get amazing, amazing results. And so this is just using VCarve in the Vectric software. It just cuts so clean, and it's just super easy. Really, it's the easiest step. So that's what I did for most of my work. And for this works really well. The one thing that you'll see here is this was all VCarve. So you see how deep the tree portion went. So it went pretty deep here. So one setting you can change on Vectric is you can change it to flat depth. And so that's some more we'll get into later or maybe in future videos. And so for some of my projects, that would be too deep with the material. And so you can then, you know, change the settings. But the problem is if you are going to route out larger sections, these pockets, this is just some particle board, and it doesn't look as bad here, but it actually does a horrible job. I mean, just imagine this V-bit is just dragging back and forth, back and forth. It's just that little tip. And so you don't get a great finish. And so, you know, many woodworkers, we know that downcut bits produce an amazing finish. So downcut bits is the best way to go. Problem is a downcut bit, if it's a 1/4 inch downcut bit, I can't get all of this detail, especially with these sharp corners. And so I did, you know, do a test cut here with a ball nose. All right, so this is usually, this tapered bit is great for 3D carving. And so such a clean, super clean cut. And it's a little rounded in the corner. I believe this one goes down to a 1/16 of an inch down here. And it cuts super clean. And so this worked really well. Ignore this. This was a user error on my part. Quite a few of those as I was learning the machine. But anyway, this is an option. I didn't do too much experimenting. I did this a little later in the game, but it does a cleaner bit. It's a little bit wider surface there at the bottom than just the V-bit. But really, like I said, a downcut bit is your best option for a clean look, especially if you're trying to pocket out a larger section. So here, and the Star Wars sign, see how clean that is? Super clean cut. And that was using this bit right here. So this is a end mill, it's just a down cut. It's a not a 1/4 inch. Well, it's a 1/4 inch shank, but a 1/16 inch at the end. So just like the ball nose,
bit. It just cuts so clean, and I don't have a perfect square corner there, not a perfect square corner. It is super fragile, right? Super small there. Again, user error on my part. I did snap this bit. This one was 30 bucks, so that was a bummer, you know, teeny tiny, but I got, I'm sorry, it's not focusing there for you. But anyway, got a nice clean cut there. And so if I'm pocketing out a larger section for my signs, like here, that is a better option than VCarve. And so if I just use the VCarve bit, you're just gonna have to do a lot more sanding. So something to consider pocketing. There are other options.
Yes, loads of other ways to do it, especially within the software. Some other things that could definitely save you time, some efficiency. We'll jump into that in future videos. Again, use those timestamps if you just want to jump ahead, but a little bit more about the bits. So again, V-bit works great. I used it for most of my stuff. It's just if you're pocketing out, I do recommend switching over to either this 16th inch downcut end mill or using this ball nose, which also has a 16th inch tip at the bottom. Just will have a cleaner cut, save you sanding, it's gonna look that much better. One other bit, I didn't do a ton of this with this batch of signs, but you can see here this Washington outline. I cut out the perimeter and have this other piece. It's out of plywood, and it held up really well, and I got the cleanest cut, minimal sanding, and that was because I used a compression bit. So a compression bit has both the upcut and the downcut. I used a 1/8 inch compression bit so I could get all those corners. It cut amazingly well. Also have the 1/4 inch. But a compression bit, you just have to make sure that first plunge goes about 1/4 inch deep enough, and it just works so well. So if you're gonna do some of these cutouts, definitely check out the compression bits. All these bits and more down in the link in the description, can check those out. But let's jump on ahead to the next step.
So here I am V-carving out, again, one of those sports logos. This again is using that 60-degree V-bit, using the VCarve program. I will talk more about this at the end of the video with the software, talking about flat depth, excuse me. But if you're gonna use the V-bit for everything and you just wanna have one bit, it is possible. It's just, again, gonna require a little bit more sanding, but it still cuts really clean on the sides, just the bottom. And so once you clean up the sides, go ahead and you flood it. And so I flooded it with some primer, and then here I'm just using some acrylic paint to get the two-tone effect. Some people will use milk paint, or you could use latex paint to fill in these colors here. But this is a way where you can get more than one color, as opposed to, I mean, I guess I could cover it with spray paint. Excuse me, I could cover it with masking tape and do it another way. But this seemed to work well, and having the acrylic with a paintbrush made touch-ups a little bit easier. So that's another consideration. But then once you pull off all that masking, pulling off the Oramask, it sure pops, looks great. So lots of possibilities. So here's another example. I'm flooding it with paint, and then you pull it off, and even though this is plywood and it was just that V-bit, it still turned out really nicely, and it turned out pretty clean. It's a little rough in those larger sections in the middle, but it still looks great. Using hardwoods. Hardwoods are amazing, and that's really what I envision myself doing mostly. And so here I'm just got a piece of Jatoba Brazilian cherry, and it carved out really nicely. And because these hardwoods, especially the hardwoods, are hard and dense, and so you know, the grain structure, there's not as much sanding required. You know, you are going to probably have a wire brush that you'll need to take just to get some little nibs and little particles there, but it cuts super clean right off the machine bed. And then go ahead and you lay a clear coat down. So this is really important if you're going to add any spray paint. You want to seal the grain. And so now that I've sealed the grain with the lacquer, now I can flood it with black. Same thing here. I'm going to seal all of the grain with a clear coat, just some kind of lacquer, and then that way it's not going to bleed. My paint color is not going to bleed into the wood grain and not come off. Now that it's sealed, let it dry. Now I can flood it with whatever color I want. So here, going with white, or the other one with black. And so flood it. Make sure you wait for the paint to dry. Once that paint has dried, then you can go about sanding. If not, you're going to get some of that sawdust in there. Here I just paused to show, again, you can make it look rustic if you want. This is a look for some, not for me. But if that's what you're going for, you could, you know, kind of make it look a little rustic. that is an option. But go ahead, if you have a good sander, this doesn't take too long. You know, you could use a drum sander, but then you have to mess with lines. So this didn't take too long at all, and it really does turn out rather nicely. And so you just want to remove all the paint, and because it's that VCarve profile, all that paint's recessed down below. And so get it all cleaned up, and then add some more lacquer or whatever finish you want on the top, just to bring it back, and a nice protective coat. It really does pop. So this is a great thing that doesn't require masking. Here's that other one with the black in the Jatoba, and so go ahead and going through the grits. I started with 80 on these, and then worked my way up with the random orbit, and it looks really nice. And you don't have to have the paint in here. It still looks really nice just with the wood, but if you want that contrast, it is an option. So now that it's all done, I'm adding some more lacquer, and I build up the coats like I would with any piece, you know, 5 to 7 coats. Another option here is that vertical grain fur, VG fur. And this, I could have done the same way where I just, you know, didn't use the masking at all, but just showing here how you could do it with that Oramask, where you don't have to do the sanding. And so it just saves a little bit of time. But anyway, it turned out really nice. This is probably the most efficient of all the options, is just getting these panels. They're already prepped. It's perfect size. The VG fur cut really well, and it's a nice piece. I'm a fan of it, and so I'll be doing a lot more of these in the future. But here you can see, went ahead, cut the sign, and again, I'm gonna go ahead and first make sure you spray that lacquer. You gotta seal that grain first, otherwise the paint is gonna bleed everywhere on you. And then go ahead and flood it, and do a couple coats just to make sure that you have uniform paint. You get it everywhere where you need it, and let it dry, wait, and then go ahead and peel it all off, and it really pops. You'll probably have to do a little bit of sanding afterwards, but then again, go back with whatever finish you want to do, and they look rather nice, and just nice quick pieces, and just all VCarve here makes quick work of it. So certainly a great option. So this is a super quick tip. Options for framing. You can just do simple butt joints, no glue, just use some pin nails and a brad nailer. That's certainly an option. It's whatever you're looking for, but if you are not a woodworker, you're more of a new CNCer, this is a great option, really easy for a DIYer. You certainly could make some more refined frames with miters and do the rabbets and do the full thing to do a more sophisticated frame. There's plenty of videos online how to do that, and then again, use those tools. You can use pocket holes. So here for that big sports sign, I just went ahead and used a pocket hole jig, and got everything uniformly spaced. And then I ended up just plopping it in with brad nails. I didn't even do recesses with rabbets to have it seat in there where this is going to be stored. I'm not worried about people seeing it on the side. So plenty of options for framing. This is not going to be a tutorial on framing, but here you can see they're just there on the side, and then I just went ahead with the brad nailer and just threw in some brads, and it worked great, and it still looked clean. So plenty of options for framing. If you're new to woodworking, check out some frame videos online. I know Fix This, Build That. Brad Rodriguez has got a great one, but framing, some options. All right, so here we are rocking VCarve Pro. This is VCarve Pro 11. If you do not have this software, then just skip on ahead. If you do and you want more videos like this, please let me know in the comments, and I will do some more. So just really quick, starting off, here's my material. Got everything set. Pretty straightforward, and then here we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and find a mountain clip art piece. So here I just search mountains black and white clip art. Black and white usually is easier. You can do it with color, but black and white's the best. If possible, you want to get a large file. So this is a pretty large file, and so find a piece that looks well, that you think will carve well, and go ahead and click on it. Then right click, save image as. And then mountain line art, whatever you want to save it, know where you saved it, and then I got it saved. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and open. So I'm going to open up that file, go back to my pictures, find it. There it is. I got my mountain. And once I've got my mountain, I want to do this feature right here. So this is called Trace Bitmap. So right on over here, I'm going to click Trace Bitmap. And so the value of black and white, it's just that much easier. You can do color. Plenty of tutorials online how to do color, but I got my black and white clicked. Scroll on down, click preview, and then you can see I got my vectors. It's given me some vectors. Click apply, close, good to go. Sometimes when you do this, you're going to get some weird little things, so you can zoom in and see, you know, if you have extra little nodes or whatnot that you can delete. Looks like I'm good here. Good to go. But for my piece, I want to have both a picture and text. So I'm going to hold down the shift key so it's centering the picture, and I'm going to resize it. Let's see. I already got my vectors, so I'm just going to get this out of the way. It's fine. I got my vectors, good to go. And we're going to go slower, you know, because the people are watching. There we go. All right. And so I'm going to bring this kind of up top. I can recenter right here. Just use this feature to recenter and keep in position holding down the shift key. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and then let's bring it down just a skosh. Or let's not, because we're just going to jump ahead. All right, then I'm going to add in some text. So here we go. We'll say the mountains are calling, and I must go. So a little John Muir quote here in the Pacific Northwest. You know what? I'm happy with that font. I can change a different font if I want, but you know what? I like it. I'm good with that. Obviously, I need to resize, other ways to resize, but I'm going to go ahead and zoom out so I can see it. I'm going to shrink it, center it. It's probably, you know what, actually I'm okay with this size. So this is just the image file. I don't, you know, I'm gonna just delete it. I don't need it. I just need the vector. And let's zoom in. All right, the mountains are calling and I must go. I'm happy with that. So I could then add, you know, in other features here. I could add in, you know, borders, but this is just simple for a tutorial. So the mountains are calling and I must go. I'm going to click on the text and I'm going to do a VCarve toolpath. So then I click on toolpath and click on VCarve. I've been using the 60-degree bit. You could certainly do a 90-degree bit. You would just select whatever you want. I'm doing start depth. I'm just going to leave it as is, 0, not messing with anything else here. This one is just, that's it. That's all I have to do. Then I'm going to click calculate. And it's just going to run it through. It jumps into 3D carving mode so I can kind of see what it looks like. Looks fabulous. So I'm going to go ahead, close. Not that I need to, but I'm going to rename this as text. All right, let's go back to 2D mode. And now I'm going to click on my picture. So with my picture, I still want to do a VCarve, but I want to show you some other options. Under toolpaths, I could do a VCarve, which is what I'm going to end up doing for this piece. But you could, like I mentioned earlier, use one of those other bits, whether it's the ball nose or the downcut bit. And then I would hit the profile toolpath. And so I already have it in here. It's an end mill 1/16 inch. That's my downcut. And so I've clicked cut depth 5/100ths of an inch, so it's not going to go super deep. That way I get that nice pocket nice and clean, kind of like I showed on that Star Wars sign earlier. And so that's how I did it, and then I would just go ahead and click calculate, and it would calculate for me like what it would look like. However, for me, I am going to show that VCarve option. So I said earlier how I did a lot of this with just the VCarve. Okay, still got the right vector selected. I could click flat depth. So all of those, you know, Seattle sports signs I did, the Mariners logo and whatnot, I clicked flat depth. And so what that did is it didn't keep going until the full VCarve bit went all the way down to get the full V. And I just went ahead and picked, you know, again, like 5/100ths of an inch. So it went down a little bit, but it got flat. So it's flat depth. It doesn't have that deep recess. So that is an option. If you want to have flat, just understand that you're going to have to do some extra sanding if you use that VCarve bit. I'm just going to do the full depth. I have enough material thickness to do the full VCarve on here. However, if you don't have the thickness, I recommend using that VCarve mode, just flat depth of 5/100ths of an inch or whatever works for you. Or you could do a pocket toolpath. Pocket toolpath, and then you could select whatever that is. So if I want to do a ball nose bit, that looked really clean, 1/16 of an inch, or I can do that end mill, that down cut. Down cut's going to be really clean. And then you would just click select, and then again you click calculate, and just get a better idea of what this is going to look like. Let's go ahead and show it. Preview. All right, so it kind of shows you what it's going to look like here with the profile. So this isn't going to be the deep V-carve. It's going to be just a flat. So give you an idea, it's really simple, pretty straightforward. And that's what it's going to look like. And so I can mess around with it if I don't love the look, and just gives you a feel for it. So there you have it, a quick little tutorial on VCarve. If you want some more on this in future videos, let me know in the comments. If you have some other videos with some great tips, drop them in the comment section as well. All right, next step. So last but not least, just want to do a quick little look at Uccnc. So this is the software that actually runs the CNC machine. I'll have more videos, more content of this in the future. If you're looking for more, let me know in comments. But here is just, you can see me at the same time as I'm running it on Uccnc. I'm running it to my X and Y to be 0, 0. And now I'm entering my piece. I'm clamping it down. I'm getting it right where I want it. Here, it's all matching up, right? And so then I'm using the touch off tool, making sure I get my Z clearance set. So if this sounds way too much for you and it's like overwhelming, it's really not. It's really not. I'll do some more basic videos in the future if you're new, and don't be daunted by the project. But once you get everything set up, then you just have to find your program, and it's that, right? You load your program that you already did in Vectric. This is the one we did earlier. And I load it, and normally you would check your toolpaths, you would do all of that. I'm not going to do that here. You're not going to see it, but I've loaded it, and now I'm just going to hit run. And so then you just stand back and watch your machine take off. And really, Uccnc is great to be able to control everything from the computer. That's one of the things the i2R machines have that not a lot of other units have. So I'll talk more about that in the future. But here is that one that we designed together. And here it is carving. And so here, oh my gosh, this is just a piece of construction grade fur. We have the V-bit. This is the 60 degree, so it got really deep in here, but I had the thickness to handle it. But this just shows a stained piece of wood that got stained and what it looks like with contrast. At this point, I could just leave it like this. I could finish. You could also do some masking and paint it white for that offset as well. But there you go. All right, a huge thank you to i2R Imagination to Reality for making this possible, right? Obviously with the CNC machine, but sponsoring this video and making it possible for me to make these cool things with some awesome CNC machines. So really quick, I want to talk about what I think makes them so incredible is the fact that it is such a simple setup. I was able to get this machine up and running in no time. There's the onboarding call. Customer service is incredible. Any issue, they do have training calls available for teaching you how to use the machine, software, all that kind of stuff. They can do remote logins if that's your need, but just some great features. It is a robust machine. It's fantastic. So you do have your smaller units available. These are the B series, but if you have a smaller space, 2x2, 2x3, and then you get to, this is the unit that I have. So this is the B24. So an incredible unit, so much possibilities, loads of other options, but huge thanks to i2R, and get excited for some more CNC content in the future.
All right, there you have it, a semi-comprehensive introduction to sign making with a CNC. Great beginner project, great beginner project. So if you don't have one yet, I'm going to be doing some more videos, some more CNC videos, really exploring all that this machine can do, and just there's so many possibilities. I'll be getting back to a lot more hardwoods, which really is what I do. If you look at my channel, again, please consider subscribing if you enjoyed this, if you found value. Typically, it's hardwoods, and so got some really fun projects getting started, but kind of walking you through my journey as I'm learning the machine. If there's anything I left out, out. If there's something that you think would add value both to me and my craft, but also for future videos, drop a comment down below. You know, whether it's other videos that I should check out, different ideas, or your own opinion about something that's more efficient, and just other ideas. So anyway, sign making with a CNC. Woodworking, it is woodworking. It's just a different type of woodworking. So anyway, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.